In this color chart demo, we're going to just review how to lay this out. You'll see that there are multiple color options with a few requirements. You need to have 2 complementary colors and then 1 other non-neutral color. Now in this we have purple and yellow and red. We could do any other variety of things. We have purple and yellow again, but with green this time. In this example, we have yellow again, but our complementary colors are red and green. So we will start with our blank color chart and walk through all of this. I have all of my supplies ready to go. I've got water, paintbrushes, paper towels, my color chart, a palette. I even have a sketchbook here to test the color out. And I also have all of my paints set up. Our 3 colors for this example will be cadmium red medium, phthalo green, and cadmium yellow medium. Clearly having some white and black handy as well, because we will need to create tints and shades for this exercise. The first thing I'm going to do here is just get a little bit of one of my hues. I will also go ahead and grab some white. As I first begin to put paint on here, I am just going to grab the hue by itself, and it doesn't matter where this cadmium red medium goes, but I do want to put it in one of the largest circles that are on here. You will see these labeled hue 1, hue 2, and hue 3, but for now, since this is my first color, I am going to go ahead and put it in hue 1. Doing the best job I can to make this smooth, even, opaque, and paying attention to the perimeter of the circle that I'm painting in, just getting some practice being as neat as possible. Now I haven't tinted, I haven't shaded this at all, but since this says hue 1 here and this says hue 1 over here, I will go ahead and paint this exactly the same. Now that that is done, what I want to do is use this column right here, and this is the one time where whatever I do in this column will be exactly the same over here. So I need to mix up enough paint for both. Now, since I will be tinting this, right, so adding white to this, what I am actually going to choose to do is start with the lightest value. So I have wiped most of my red off of my brush over here. I'm not gonna worry about washing it out. I'm gonna grab kind of a hunk of white here, and I already have some red on my brush, so it's not going to be perfectly white, but it is going to be extremely light in value, and that is kind of what I want. So, you know, one of the things that I'm doing as I'm mixing this up is I'm trying to keep it as homogeneous, or make it as homogeneous as possible. So completely mix the same throughout. I just want it to be really light in value, mixed thoroughly and evenly throughout, and then filling in all the way to the perimeter of my circle. And I will do the same thing on this side. Okay. So there we go. Now, as I get darker in value, closer to my pure red, what I want to do is just keep adding a little bit more red to this pile of very light pink, so that I have 2 more distinct values that are tints of my cadmium red medium here, which will be the same on both the left and right, and then the same here, but I need to try to step down in value for each one of these, so that's what I'll do next. Turning your paper around will make it easier to paint with the tip of the brush towards the edge. One of the major points of this exercise is to see how much variety you can get. Okay, so now I have pure cadmium red medium, and I have 3 tints where I've added different quantities of white. Next, what I've done is put some cadmium yellow medium on my palette. So I'm going to put that here for hue 2, where the largest circle is, it is straight yellow, and then I will go through the same process in terms of tinting. One of the things to notice at this point is that you really don't need to mix up very much paint. These shapes for the pure hue are the largest ones on this worksheet. These circles and ovals over here really don't take very much paint. And if you look at what I have mixed up over here, there's kind of a lot left over, and I can't use that anymore for anything else. As I'm getting paint, there are a few things to keep in mind. One, I don't need to mix up very much. Two, I always want to grab from the edge so that I can come back in here at another point and as I'm creating another mixture and get some uncontaminated paint. At this point, we want to start creating the mixes in between. In theory, what is in the middle will be equal parts of each of the two hues that we're working with. In this case, cadmium red medium and cadmium yellow medium. Because yellow is such a weak hue compared to something like red or the green that will go here, in reality, we need to pay more of attention to the color that we know that we're supposed to get when we mix these two, which is orange. So when I'm near red, I'm going to use some red with just a little bit of yellow in there, and then I will tint that. Then I will remix the color and add barely a touch of black in order to shade that. When I am close to the yellow, I'm going to use a blob of yellow and then just a tiny bit of red that is in there. And then I will tint that, again, starting at the top and working my way down. And then I will clean my brush out and I will add a tiny bit of black to that in order to create a shade. So again, we have this central row here where it is straight hue, no white or no black. Everything above that is a tint, and everything below that is a shade. I also want to pay attention to the fact that I never want to create a tone, which is mixing white and black together. I'm going to start here and just kind of work my way across, grabbing a bit of red, wipe off my brush a little bit, and grab just a bit of yellow, put some off to the side so that I can always mix more in. This is where using scrap paper so that you can really see what the color is going to be like comes in handy. All right, so homogeneous here. Now I want to take some of my white, and I really need to pay attention to value here. Homogeneous mixing and value are important. Next, I need to shade this and put the tiniest little dab of black into my straight red yellow mixture. You probably can't even see the tiny amount of black that's on there, but once you start mixing it into that hue, it becomes very obvious. I will move on to equal parts of red and yellow here. I will do my 3 tints, and then I will need to have enough mixed up so that I can do 3 shades. So on my palette, I have been mixing up an orange over here, and I'm looking for an orange, and I've been testing it out, and I have mixed up what I feel like is a pretty decent amount. I'm going to take some of my paint and kind of set it off to the side so that I can use it with my shades, but I do want to start with my tints. So here we go with, I'm going to begin with the lightest and work my way down. So I'm finished with my 3 tints. Now I need to go on to my 3 shades. When I get to the shading, what I want to do is start with just a tiny bit of black and gradually add more and more black. But you have to do it in super small increments because black is a very aggressive addition to any of your other hues, and it will change the color dramatically, and at a certain point it'll get so dark that you can't really see what's going on. And now I've got a full range of orange. I began at the very top to try to get 3 distinct tints of this combination of cadmium red and cadmium yellow. Then I took a separate portion of my orange mixture and I gradually added black to it in order to get tiny differences of different shades in there as well. This will really start to show us the kind of variety that we can eventually get in our painting. Now we'll move on to taking yellow with just a tiny bit of red. And now we'll get our last hue. It's going to be straight phthalo green in this largest circle. At this point, I'll start with a combination of yellow and phthalo green, beginning closest to yellow, so that will give me yellow with just a touch of the green in there. And remember that the green is a much stronger hue than the yellow, so really, again, having to pay attention to proportions as we work with our straight hues. And now on to equal portions of yellow and green, clearly needing to use more yellow. And beginning up here with my tints and working my way down. Next, moving on to the shades. Tiny bit of black first and then progressing down. And just like over here, it was more yellow with just a touch of red closest to the yellow circle. This will be green with just a touch of yellow as we get right here closest to the green circle. So with that said, we are on to our last group of mixes, being phthalo green and cadmium red medium. I'm going to start here with green, adding just a touch of red, working my way from my lightest tint down, then my shade, quote unquote equal portions. And again, this should give me a neutral. Depending on your colors, you're going to get either a brown or a gray here for your neutral. So if you don't, and you should be testing that out on separate paper, but if you don't get a brown or a gray, then you need to keep adjusting your mix. We'll do our full complement here, as we did in the middle of our other two, and then we'll do red with just a touch of green over here. Again, beginning with our lightest tint and working our way down, cleaning our brush out, and then doing one more shade down here. This one is hard to see, definitely needed to test it out, but as we tint this, you can really see a big difference, and it is certainly different than the more green versus more red. And while you can see how the black really makes a difference with these two mixes here, it's going to be almost impossible to see the differences down here, but we want to do it anyway. So here we go. And our last one, where we take red with a hint of green in there and add just a hint of black. And here we have our full complement, really diving in and exploring what we can get in terms of variety, not just laterally between the colors, but also tinting that hue and then also creating a variety of shades. The main thrust of this exercise is to show you the varieties that you can get with a minimum amount of hue available.